Hi everyone, it's Laura from Bodbriggan Library again. And you know what? One of my favourite stories, Peppa Pig. I always love Peppa, no matter what. And today, maybe you can listen to this tonight, we have Good Night Peppa. This will help you go to sleep. So, once upon a time, Granny and Grandpa Pig came round for dinner. It was almost time for Peppa and George to go to bed. Yawn, yawned Daddy Pig very loudly while they were eating. Hee hee hee, everyone giggled. Ho ho, sorry, said Daddy Pig. I'm a little tired. Look at Daddy Pig's big tired face. Oh my goodness, have you ever seen that before? My goodness, Daddy must have worked very hard that day. Peppa and George weren't tired at all. Can we jump in muddy puddles for just a tiny bit? Asked Peppa. Please. Okay, said Daddy Pig, you must come in at bath time. Peppa and George loved jumping in muddy puddles. They jumped up and down until they were covered in mud. Peppa, George, called Daddy, you must be feeling sleepy now. Let's get you in that bath. But Daddy, we're not even a little bit sleepy, replied Peppa. Do you want to see the mud? Are you ready for this? Wowzers, they are filthy, aren't they? So, into the bath. Peppa and George splashed in the bath until they were nice and clean. I think bath time is over, said Daddy Pig, because he was dripping wet. You must be tired after all that splashing. We're not even a little bit tired, cried Peppa, splashing Daddy Pig again. Daddy Pig was soaked. Look, they're two rascals, aren't they? So, are they tired, do you think? Peppa and George hopped out of the bath. They dried off, put on their pajamas very slowly. Then they brushed their teeth for an extra long time. Quick, wash your faces. Granny Pig wants to tuck you into bed, said Mummy Pig. Yippee, cheered Peppa and George. Well, Peppa and George were finally ready for bed. They said good night to Mummy and Daddy Pig and found Granny Pig in their room. Come on, little ones, said Granny Pig. It's bedtime. Hop in. But I can't go to bed without Teddy, said Peppa. Dinosaur, sobbed George. Look, they have bunk beds. You've seen them before. There's Granny Pig trying to find everything. So Granny Pig found Teddy and Mr. Dinosaur and tucked everyone in. Good night, Peppa and Teddy, said Granny Pig. Good night, George. Good night, Mr. Dinosaur. But we are not even the tiny bit sleepy, Granny, said Peppa. I see, said Granny Pig. Well, I wonder what would make you sleepy. Can you tell us a bedtime story? Asked Peppa. Of course, as long as you promise to go to sleep as soon as the story ends. We promise. Peppa and George loved bedtime stories. So, Granny Pig began telling the story. Once upon a time there was a beautiful princess called Peppa, interrupted Peppa. Well, yes, said Granny Pig. And Sir George the brave knight, Peppa interrupted again. Hee hee, giggled George. Granny Pig tried to carry on. Princess Peppa and Sir George lived in a castle. Let's have a look at them first. They look great, don't they? So, they lived in a castle. Who's going to interrupt, do you think? A great big castle in the sky, said Peppa. Granny Pig tried to finish the story. Princess Peppa and Sir George had been playing all day in the castle and they were very tired. Do they look tired to you? I don't think so. Then the king arrived, cheered Peppa, and a cook and a wizard and a scary dragon dinosaur. Dinosaur, said George. Grrr. And the cook made them all a giant picnic with sandwiches and cakes and jelly and everything. Peppa listed all the foods she could think of. Grandpa Pig came to find Granny Pig. I'm telling Peppa and George a bedtime story, explained Granny Pig, and we promise to go to sleep when the story ends, said Peppa. I see, said Grandpa Pig. Granny Pig, why don't you leave this to me? I'm good at ending stories. So Granny Pig said goodnight and went downstairs. Grandpa Pig did his best to end the story. After they ate the lovely picnic, everyone fell asleep. The end, he said. But Peppa did not want the story to end. Well, no, Grandpa. Then they all woke up and their friends arrived, she cried, and they all went for a ride in Princess Peppa's carriage and decided to have a great big party. Does anybody look tired to you? I don't think so. They all look wide awake to me. Oh dear. Well, Daddy Pig comes upstairs. I'm the expert at telling bedtime stories, he said, and he whispered quietly to Grandpa, I'll have them asleep in no time. So Grandpa Pig said goodnight and went downstairs. I don't know about this, everybody. Princess Peppa and Sir George were just about to have a great big party, Peppa told Daddy Pig. I see, he replied. So this is what Peppa's thinking. Still no sleepy heads there, I don't think. No. Thud, thud, thud. Mummy Pig heard banging and she came upstairs too. Peppa, George and Daddy were dancing. We're having a party like in the story, explained Peppa. They're almost asleep, said Daddy Pig. Thank you, Daddy, said Mummy Pig. I'll take over now. So Daddy Pig said goodnight and he scurried downstairs. So Mummy Pig tucked Peppa and George back into bed. Then she asked Peppa to tell her the whole bedtime story from the beginning. Now, do you think they're starting to look a little bit sleepy? I do. Once upon a time, whispered Peppa, yawning, there was a beautiful princess called Peppa. She lived with Sir George, the brave knight, in a great big castle. Yawn in the sky. Speaking softly was making Peppa really sleepy. Peppa tried to finish the story, but she just couldn't keep her eyes open. Soon George fell fast asleep, and so did Peppa. Mummy Pig looked at her two little ones and she smiled. She whispered, "Good night, George. Good night, Peppa." Then she headed downstairs to find Granny and Grandpa and Daddy Pig. Well, look at these two sleeping. Look at them. Do you think they snore? She went downstairs to find Granny, Grandpa and Daddy. Look who else is asleep. All fast asleep and snoring. It was bedtime for Peppa and George, and it was bedtime for everyone else too. Good night, said Mummy Pig. Good night, everybody. Time for bed. Sleep tight.